During a family reunion, my husband and his mother announced they'd moved my office to make room for her craft space. Everything I built for my career was dumped into boxes. I tried to speak, but she cut me off. "You should be grateful we let you stay here." I nodded and said, "You'll wish you hadn't touched my things." 3 weeks later, they faced consequences they never saw coming because I'm 43, and I've been a licensed therapist for almost 15 years. I've spent every one of those years fighting for my independence. Grew up in a loud, chaotic family where no one listened to anyone. My work isn't just a paycheck. It's peace. It's control. It's the one place in my life where I know I matter and people listen. That room they took, it wasn't just 4 walls. It was the only space I had that was mine. I met Ron 12 years ago. He's a good man in a lot of ways. Honest, works with his hands, grew up in Eugene like me. But he's never really understood what I do or how hard it was to build. I don't blame him for that. I blame him for something worse. Pretending to care, then letting his mother bulldoze through my life. Darlene started staying with us off and on about 2 years ago. She'd lost her rental and told us she'd only be with us until she got back on her feet. I offered to help her find another place, even put together a list of options, but she waved it off. Said nothing felt safe or homey enough. Ron kept defending her. She just needs time. Then she stopped leaving. Little things started to shift. My good knives went missing from the kitchen and reappeared dull in the dishwasher. My framed degrees were taken off the living room shelf and replaced with porcelain angels. One morning, I found her folding laundry in my bedroom without asking. She said, "I figured you'd be too busy." I told Ron, "She's making herself at home in ways that aren't okay." He got quiet and said, "She's just lonely." The 4th of July was supposed to be a day off. I'd canceled all my appointments and planned to relax, grill, maybe get tipsy on cheap wine. Instead, I walked into the most humiliating scene I've ever experienced in my own home. Darlene stood in front of my old office, now completely unrecognizable. Where my bookshelf used to be, she'd hung this ridiculous pink pegboard with yarn and thread organized by color. My ergonomic desk chair, gone. My therapy couch, the one clients cried on, gone. Everything stuffed in U-Haul boxes and shoved into a dusty corner of the garage like it never mattered. And the worst part? Everyone else knew. Ron's sisters had helped. The nieces and nephews were in on it. It had been a family project, except I wasn't family enough to be told. I turned to Ron. He just looked at his beer. Didn't say a damn word. That's when Darlene dropped her little bomb. "You should be grateful we let you stay here." Let me be clear. I own that house. I bought it 6 years ago after my father passed and left me a lump sum. Ron moved in after we got married, but he never put a cent into the mortgage. His name's not on the deed. He insisted early on that we didn't need a prenup because we trust each other. Well, I trusted him. That was my mistake. I said nothing else at the time. Just one sentence. "You'll wish you hadn't touched my things." I walked outside, got in my car, and left. Slept in a hotel that night. Called my lawyer the next morning. I'd been patient. I'd try to play nice. But they wanted to treat me like a guest in my own home? Fine. Let them feel what it's like to be unwelcome. I didn't go home that next day, or the day after that. Instead, I stayed at a small hotel downtown. I told Ron I needed space, and he didn't push. Probably thought I was just sulking. That was his thing. He always believed problems just blew over if you waited long enough. But I wasn't sulking. I was documenting. While sitting in that hotel room, I gathered every piece of financial evidence I needed. Copies of the deed, bank transfers from the inheritance, photos of the office as it used to be, screenshots of texts where Ron had clearly said I let him live there. And I had an email from our financial planner reminding me that the house was held solely in my name. Ironclad. My lawyer helped me draft an official notice, 30 days for Ron and Darlene to vacate the property. No discussion. No negotiation. I was done. I didn't tell them in person. I emailed the notice to both Ron and his mother, then sent a copy by certified mail. Ron called me that night in a rage. "What the hell is this?" he barked. "You need to find somewhere else to live," I said calmly. "The house is mine. You and your mother crossed a line I can't forgive." He tried every trick. First, he acted hurt, said I was throwing away our marriage over a room. Then came guilt. "You're breaking up a family." Then the threats. "You think this won't get ugly?" I didn't respond. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. That week, Darlene started calling me from block numbers, leaving voicemails crying, accusing me of putting her on the street. Then the manipulation kicked in. I'm old. I have nowhere to go. But not once did she apologize. Not once did she ask to talk like an adult. Just the same entitled attitude that had gotten her into my house in the first place. The backlash from Ron's family came fast. His sister posted some vague, self-righteous crap on Facebook. Some people forget where they came from when they get a little money. People who didn't even know me were sending messages. "How could you kick out family? She's just a sweet old lady." I didn't respond to any of them. But I did send one email to Ron directly. "You had a chance to protect what I built. Instead, you stood there and watched it get torn apart like it meant nothing. That was my line. You crossed it. This isn't about a room. This is about respect." A week later, he filed a motion to contest the eviction, claiming marital residence status. But here's what he didn't realize. I had also filed for legal separation. And since Oregon is not a community property state, and the house was acquired before the marriage, his challenge was weak at best. My lawyer shut it down fast. That final month was the worst of it. Ron and Darlene still lived in the house while I stayed elsewhere. They refused to leave. She kept inviting people over. Neighbors told me there were loud parties, and once, she had a garage sale. I showed up unannounced and found her trying to sell one of my therapy books for $1. I took pictures, called the police, reported it as unauthorized use of property. Ron called me again that night. "You've turned into a monster," he said. I said nothing, just hung up. But deep down, I felt it too. I hated the silence. I hated feeling like the villain. But then I'd picture my books in boxes, my chair gone, that smug look on her face as she called me lucky to still be allowed to stay. That house was my only safe place, and they desecrated it. So I didn't flinch. 3 weeks to the day after I sent the notice, the sheriff showed up. Ron and Darlene were ordered out. Ron moved in with a friend. Darlene, I heard, went to stay with one of her sisters in Salem. I wasn't home when it happened. I didn't want to see them leave. I just wanted to breathe again. But this wasn't over, because the real revenge hadn't even started yet. A week after they were gone, I walked back into my house for the first time in over a month. The silence hit me.
No blaring TV.
No smell of Darlene's lavender candles. Just dust, faint echoes, and boxes, my boxes, stacked haphazardly in the garage, some of them crumpled and water-stained. One box had my clinical notes, unsorted and bent. Another had my college yearbooks and a framed photo of my dad.
Cracked.
I spent the next few days slowly rebuilding the space. Not just the office. The whole house. But it felt different. Tainted. I couldn't sleep well. Couldn't relax. Every room held a ghost.
A sentence someone said.
A moment I didn't speak up. I kept asking myself, how did I let it get this far? Then the real twist came. 3 weeks after the eviction, I got a notice in the mail. Ron was trying to file for spousal support. He claimed he'd become financially dependent on me over the years and that I'd abandoned him after inviting his mother to stay. He was asking for monthly payments, enough to cover rent and living expenses. I felt like I'd been kicked in the chest. This man had stood by while his mother dismantled my professional space, insulted me in front of a crowd, and treated me like a tenant in my own house, and now he wanted money? My lawyer was furious, but calm. "Let him try," she said. "We'll tear this apart." What she uncovered was gold. Ron had opened a secret checking account 3 years earlier. He'd been stashing money, small deposits, maybe $100 here, $200 there from under-the-table mechanic work he never reported. Enough to prove he wasn't financially dependent. And during the month they refused to vacate, he'd taken items from the house, my backup laptop, a studio light, a client gift card, and pawned them. I filed a countermotion, not only to deny spousal support, but to seek damages for stolen property and emotional distress. Ron dropped the support request fast. Too fast. It didn't sit right. Then came the second twist. Turns out, Ron hadn't just been quietly moving on. He'd already moved in with another woman. I found out through a mutual friend. Her name was Kelsey. Mid-30s, worked at the same auto shop where he picked up weekend shifts. They'd started sleeping together 6 months earlier, while I was doing late-night client sessions in the office he helped destroy. She was the one who took him in after the eviction. Everything clicked. That's why he stood by and watched Darlene erase me from my own home. He was already halfway out emotionally. Maybe longer. I confronted him. Not to scream, not to fight, but to say what I needed to say for me. You had a choice, I told him. You could have protected what I built. You could have told her no. But you chose to let her tear me down while you slid into someone else's bed. You're a coward, Ron. And you're about to learn what it costs to betray someone who trusted you. Because I wasn't done. Not yet. I didn't yell. I didn't break down. I just went silent and got to work. Ron had no idea what I still had in my back pocket. I'd kept years of receipts, emails, even old texts where he joked about how lucky he was to not be on the mortgage and still live like a king. I also had copies of home repair invoices I paid in full. Even the new water heater he bragged about installing, I bought it. He just hooked it up. I filed for divorce 2 days later. Oregon doesn't require you to prove fault, but I wanted a clear record. My lawyer attached everything: the financial deception, the evidence of infidelity, the stolen property, and even screenshots of a Facebook post Kelsey made showing Ron finally living in peace again in her apartment, dated a week before he claimed I abandoned him. We requested zero spousal support. We asked for court fees. We asked for damages. And we won.
Hard.
Ron walked away with nothing.
No alimony.
No share of the house.
No furniture.
I was allowed to reclaim the pawned items or demand restitution. The judge reprimanded him for bad faith and borderline financial abuse. My lawyer said she rarely saw someone sink their own ship so fast. But I wasn't done yet. See, the one thing Ron still had going was his side hustle at the mechanic shop. It wasn't legal side income, but it was how he paid for dinners with Kelsey and gas for the truck I also paid off 2 years ago. So I tipped off the state. I sent a formal complaint to the Oregon Department of Revenue. Attached copies of his text messages boasting about cash jobs and side income, along with bank records we'd pulled during the spousal support investigation. He's now under audit. Kelsey dumped him soon after. Word is she didn't sign up to bankroll his mess. Especially when she found out he owed the IRS. I heard he moved back in with one of his cousins out in Springfield. Small house, 1 bathroom, 5 people.
Darlene?
She tried to contact me again. Said she was deeply sorry and didn't realize what she'd done. I didn't respond. She can apologize to someone else. Maybe a landlord, if one will take her. As for me, I kept the house. Rebuilt the office. Got a therapy dog, a little rescue lab named Ivy who sleeps under my desk while I work. My clients never knew the storm I went through. They just know I show up, on time, prepared, and stronger than ever. That space they destroyed, I made it better. I added new furniture. Put my dad's picture on the shelf. Hung a sign over the door that says, "Mine."
And I meant it.
Every time I walk into that room, I remember what it took to reclaim it. The silence, the humiliation, the cold betrayal. But more than that, I remember the moment I finally stopped trying to be polite about people tearing me down. That's the moment I started rising again. Alone.
Free.
And untouchable.